Hi everybody, and very welcome to yet another live stream here with Mentor Pilot on the Mentor Pilot channel. I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic wherever you are, and I hope that you enjoyed my latest video. If you're here, it means that you probably received a notification on the Mentor Aviation app. So that is one of the many features that the Mentor Aviation app has to offer. I will always go out there first and tell people when I'm doing a live stream, for example, here on YouTube or on Instagram, or if I'm releasing a video or something like that. So please, if you don't have the Mentor Aviation app, then go get it now. It's completely free to download, and I'll show a little bit of a glimpse of some of the collections that you can get in order to support the common work on the app. There is loads of new updates on the way. There's loads of new material that is being created, mainly in here at the moment, but it will come out. So if you're into technical details about aircraft, especially about 737, or maybe you want to start your PPL soon and you want to know what all the theory is about, then I would get the app, and I would get it right now. Right. So this live session, I've decided to talk a little bit about some common rumors about pilots, conceptions about pilots, and that's why I named it Does Pilots Really Need to Eat Different Food? So what I want to do is I'm going to take your questions on this, something that you thought, well, I wonder if pilots are doing this, or I'm sure pilots are doing that, or something like that. Ask your questions. If you have a really important question that you really want me to answer, then use a super chat. I promise that I will answer all the super chat questions, and then you can use the normal chat, which I see a lot of people are already doing. But you can also use the Mentor Aviation app. All right, just go into the chat inside of the Mentor Aviation app, and you can use that. Now, for some reason, I can see there's only 47 people here at the moment. So I'm thinking I might have to wait a little bit until there's more people coming in. Did everyone receive a notification about this? As in, did YouTube push out a notification that I was going live? Because normally there's a couple of hundred people here at least at this time. Right, so one question, is this a new camera? It is indeed. I have a brand new iMac that I'm using in order to edit my videos mainly. I needed a better computer to do that, so I got myself an iMac, and that's largely because of all of my supporters inside of Patreon. So I have a crew of people inside of Patreon that is supporting the channel, both by previewing my videos, giving me suggestions about thumbnails, stuff like that, but also financially. So there, if you want to be part of that, if you want to get into the inner core of the Mentor Pilot channel and maybe schedule a Skype meeting or something like that, well then here in the description of this video you'll find a link to my Patreon page. You can go in there, you can check out what it's all about, and if you want to support, it's more than welcome. What is a super chat? Matteo Rosso is asking. It's there. It's a little $sign below. Basically, you're supporting the channel. You're just sending in a couple of dollars in order to get your question highlighted. And I see those. Those are written in a different color, so it's easier for me to see. And that way, I can guarantee that I can answer all of them. So let's see. There's only 66 people here. I'm wondering if there is some kind of issue with YouTube here, but no matter. We'll shoot off anyway. So, answer to the question: does pilots actually have to eat different food? Is yes, they do. We do. If you're working for an airline that provides the pilot with food, which most long-haul airlines do, and quite a few short-haul airlines does as well, then the captain will get one sort of food, the first officer will get another, and that is to eliminate any little risk of food poisoning. Because what you don't want is two pilots that are basically incapacitated because of food poisoning. So those rumors are true. Now, in my airline, we had a deal with the airline a long time ago, back in, I think, year 2000, where they asked, do you guys want us to give you a little bit more salary, or do you want us to provide you with food? And the pilots voted to bring their own food and get more salary instead, because really you get tired of the sandwiches in the catering after a while. So basically that's what happened. And we have been bringing our own food because we're running short haul. You're away maximum 8 hours, hopefully every day. So what I tend to do is I cook food for the whole week. I put them into little metal boxes that can be heated in the onboard oven. Now it's not a microwave oven, it's an actual oven. So I freeze them, and then every day I take one of those with me with some nice home cooked food, and bring that to the aircraft. One of the longer sectors, I'll put it into the oven and have it in cruise, because in cruise is where you have enough time to actually eat it. But this also means that you are guaranteed to have different food than your first officer, because you've brought the food yourself. So that solves that problem. So for those of you who are interested about that, it's absolutely true, and this is the reason for it. Cool. So we have our first super chat here, question here from Atabos. Can you get a medical clearance for commercial airline pilot if you have an anxiety disorder very well managed with medication? Can I follow up? The answer to that question is sadly no. As long as you are on any kind of psychopharmaca, you will not be able to get your medical. Now, what I would do is, if I were you, I would just go in, type in AME, as in Alpha Mike Echo, and your city. Then you'll find a list of all the aeromedical examiners that are available in your city. You can call them, and then you can have a discussion of what needs to be done. Last time I had this question, I talked to an AME. They said that providing that you are symptom-free and that you haven't needed medication for, I think, a period of 6 months, then it's a possibility to go for the medical. But as long as there is medication involved, I'm fairly sure that you can't be issued with a medical for commercial operation. But once again, I am not an aeromedical examiner. I don't give advice on this, so I want you to check that out yourself. It's the best way of doing it. Cool. So, James Partington, have you ever aborted a takeoff? Love your videos. Yeah, I actually aborted a takeoff just just before Christmas. Now, it was a low speed rejected takeoff, and below 80 knots we can basically reject the takeoff for any reason. So any strange noise, any master caution, any blown tire, anything like that, then we would just reject, because you're at a low speed and you haven't used much runway, so it's perfectly safe to do so. Now, above 80 knots, I haven't done a rejected takeoff, and that's because the only reason you would reject a takeoff above 80 knots is for engine failure, fire, predicted wind shear warning, airplane unsafe or unable to fly. So, that is very, very rare, because we are what we call go-minded. It's better at a higher speed to bring the aircraft into the air than to try to reject it with only a little bit of runway left. Even though we've done the calculations so that we can reject the takeoff safely up to V1, it's still a higher risk of something going wrong or us not reacting properly and getting an aircraft overrun if we reject above 80 knots. So we very rarely do that. But I did a rejected takeoff just before Christmas, and that was because of an anti-ice master caution. But this was at like 25 knots or something. So we had the takeoff thrust set. It was just disconnecting. And by the way, guys, if you are interested in seeing how to do a rejected takeoff, okay, if you want to see how we do it in glorious 360 format, well then get the rejected takeoff and emergency evacuation collection inside of the Mentour Aviation app. You just go to, you register yourself, you go to the home screen, it's the first screen that you get in, then you scroll until you find that. Or right now I have on sale the all-in-one collection that covers all of the collections. So it's about 2 hours of instruction in there, and you can look around on your mobile device by using your fingers, or you can move your phone around, or if you have a Google Cardboard headset, then you can just put your phone in and you can look around. And it's basically like sitting inside of the cockpit on the jump seat together with me, checking it out. It's very cool. And the all-in-one collection right now is only €5 or $5, depending on where you are, plus taxes. I think sometimes it goes up a little bit with taxes. So that's 2 hours of instruction. And if you get that playlist, if you buy that playlist, it means that you're supporting the app, which is now undergoing an enormous upgrade. Okay, you will not, if you have the app right now, you will not recognize it after the upgrade, but in a good way. All right, I've taken all of the suggestions that you guys have given me from the app about how to improve the chat, what we should be having, what you should be able to do. I've taken them, and I've taken the most doable ones, the most interesting ones, and I've crammed them into this update. So what you will see now is over the next 3 months, I will roll up update after update. It's going to come one, and then another, and then another, and then another. So if you're interested in that, get the app right now, download it. You don't have to buy anything. You can do, please do, if you want to support the upgrade. But anyway, I want this to become the center of aviation in the world. That's my little lofty goal, but that's what I want. I want you guys to have a place to go to meet airline pilots like me, other airline pilots, where we can answer your questions in a safe, productive way. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to achieve. That's why I'm building the app. That's why I want you guys to be in there. But I'm guessing that the 100 people that are in here watching right now, you probably already have the app. Right, so we have some more super questions here, super chat questions. Jay Carvey, I have high blood pressure and get dizziness during takeoff. Do you have any types like where to sit and techniques? High blood pressure, well, obviously, I mean, I'm guessing that you're seeing a doctor for this, so that you know that drinking coffee and stuff like that, especially together with going flying, is not great. There's no specific techniques that I know about in order to keep the blood pressure down, except, you know, whatever relaxation methods there might be out there, and what, you know, need to avoid to eat, and make sure you drink a lot of water. Generally speaking, if you don't like turbulence, it's better to sit towards the front or the middle of the aircraft. The further back you go in the aircraft, the more you will feel the turbulence. So that could be one thing maybe to think about, but no, apart from that, I don't really know. Hey, Pachi. Pachi is here and he wants to say hello as well. The reason I was a little bit late was that Pachi decided to pee all over the floor. So that's why I didn't come in exactly when I was supposed to. Right, I'm just going to let Pachi out here. Pachi, come. There we are. Right, cool. More questions here. Martin Almosetoft. I've noted that some pilots choose to turn off the flight director on manual approaches. Why would you choose to do that? When do you use the flight director? Yeah, so this is a little bit company specific. In my airline, we do not degrade the automation, as in we can choose to fly manually, but you do so with the flight directors on, because the flight directors will help you in case you start losing your situational awareness. So other airlines think that it's a good idea to practice what we call raw data approaches by turning off all the flight directors. It does improve your scan speed, because you all of a sudden, since you don't have the flight directors telling you to turn and to descend and to change your pitch, you're going to have to continuously improve the scan speed between the different instruments. So it's a good practice technique, but it's not to be done, in my view, with passengers on board, because the passengers who are sitting behind, they're expecting you to be at your best possible behavior. You know, they're expecting you to use all of the aids you have in order to make their flight as safe and comfortable as possible. And turning off flight directors or turning off aids of any sort is not the way to do that. So what we do in my airline is that we have as compulsory training every 6 months raw data flying, both raw data departures, raw data stall or approaches to stall and recovery, and raw data approaches with enormous amount of crosswind, in order to practice these things. Because in the simulator it makes sense. In the simulator it's good to be able to do this. In the real aircraft with passengers behind, not so much. So we always have the flight directors on. But like I said, you can choose to fly manually. If it's pre-briefed, you're flying in an environment that you know where the terrain is, you know exactly where the problems are. There's not too much traffic, it's not too much bad weather. Well, in that case, it's a good day to practice hand flying. You can disconnect. But whenever you need to kind of get your own to reduce the workload for both you and your pilot monitoring, well, then you should use as much automation as possible down to when you disconnect for landing. All right, because you will feel, and you will notice this when you come through line training yourself, when the flight directors are off, when you're manually flying and flight directors are off, your vision goes like this, down to tunnel vision, and you will only see what's straight ahead of you. You'll lose hearing as well. You won't hear call outs and stuff like that, and that's stress. When you put the autopilot back in, and suddenly you're back in the cockpit, you can breathe, you can think ahead, and that's what automation does. That's the good side of automation. The bad side is over-reliance, right? Cool, great questions, by the way. So, John Richardson, hi Mentor. I recently had my class 1 medical and failed my color vision test. Also had to do a CAD test in London. Is there any way ever I can become a pilot? Well, it's depending on how it failed. Obviously, if you've permanently failed your medical, then the sad answer to that is no, because you need a medical certificate in order to get your commercial licenses. So I do know that there's some lantern tests, like if you have a very, very small color deficiency, there are some special tests that you can do and still get it authorized. But once again, I am not an AME. You would have to look into that yourself. I think it's called lantern or something, the magic lantern test, something like that you can ask for to do. I also think that there are different countries that have slightly more lenient color vision rules. I think this is just off the top of my head, but I think Australia is one of them. But once again, when it comes to medical things, there's very little that I can tell you that your medical examiner can't tell you. I'm very sorry to hear that. It's just one of these things, one of those rules that I've made up. Keep yourself current. Keep looking into it. It's possible that they might change regulations or lighten the test or something like that. But at the moment, the answer to that is no, unfortunately. Right. So, Thomas Hendon, how about the idea of standing passengers? Right. So this is a favorite. For example, Michael O'Leary from Ryanair has been touting the idea of standing passengers for years. There are companies in the US who have created standing passenger seats for short-haul travel. And this all makes for great headlines, right? The media, they love this because it's such a wacky idea. So they send that out, they make an article about, wow, next time you will go at transatlantic, you might be standing up, and then they'll put a picture of like a bus passenger holding onto something. Okay. The only reason that airlines would want those kind of seats is to be able to cram more passengers into an aircraft. Right? That's the only reason, right? There's no one who wants people to stand up if they can avoid it. It's only if they want to cram more passengers into an aircraft, right? That sounds logical. So people say, well, in that case, we can fill up the aircraft with much more passengers. They can charge more money and hence make more revenue. But, this is the problem. The aircraft type is only certified to carry a certain number of passengers. And that's because they only have a certain number of emergency exits. Any aircraft need to be able to evacuate all of its passengers through half of its emergency exits in 90 seconds, right? That's what you have. You have to be able to do that always. So that's been tested. So for example, the 737-800 can carry 189 passengers. Even if we had loads of standing chairs, standing stools, what would happen is you would have 189 passengers anyway. So there's absolutely no point, unless you're flying an aircraft which is designed to take a vast, a lot more passengers than what you can cram in chairs to. But that's not how Boeing and Airbus builds aircraft. They make sure that they can fill up the aircraft and that those people inside there can get out, right, with the current rules. But what they don't do is create an aircraft where you could take 50 more passengers, but unfortunately there's no more emergency exit. That doesn't exist. So that's just a ploy. Not gonna happen. No reason. Right, so Rhys Chandler on SuperChat. I've got an interview with EasyJet at CAE in February. Give me your top 5 questions you would ask me in an interview to see if I could be a good pilot. Safe flying. Right, you're putting me a little bit on the spot here because A, I am not doing these kind of interviews, so I basically have no idea. And B, in order for me to do this, I would probably need to think a little bit. Popping it off the top of my head is not going to help you much. But you are going to get the standard ones. Why do you want to be a pilot at EasyJet? You have to be able to motivate that because they want to be able to see that A, you know a little bit about the company that you're applying to. B, you're not one of those that's going to just jump into that to go off to Emirates in a few years. They want to see that you are actually the right type. So why do you want to work for my airline? Why do you want to become a pilot? Name one of your weaknesses, right? That's definitely going to come as well, because they always want to see what the picture of yourself is. So you better have thought about something, some part of your personality that you're not terribly proud of, but that also doesn't make you into a dangerous individual. So these are kind of standard questions. They might give you a scenario, like not an aviation related. If you don't have any aviation background, they're probably not going to give you any aviation related. But if you do have licenses, they're going to give you a scenario. You are somewhere, you have a sick passenger. What would you do? How would you prioritize? Just to see how your mind works. So those are kind of questions that might come up. But once again, if you're going for an interview like that, I would suggest that you start scouring the internet for EasyJet questions to see what you can expect. I did a video called "How to Ace the Airline Interview." Okay, in there I have partnered up with a company called airlineprep.co.uk. They do preparation courses for airline interviews and for flight school interviews, and they've made an app together with me there, where if you go to that video, so how to ace an airline interview, you'll see in the description of the video the links to get that app, and there are some I think you can prepare for different airlines, and I think EasyJet is one of them, so you can check that out. But apart from that, there's not much more I can do, unfortunately. Cool, and best of luck, by the way. So, the legacy. Marcard on app brought up a neat question. Why does the Airbus 380 only use inner engines for reverse thrust? Risk for asymmetric thrust? Yeah, it's likely. Now, since I'm not flying the Airbus 380, I don't know exactly why they do certain things. All right, I have friends who are flying the Airbus 380, so I can ask them. But right now, my best guess is that it's huge. There might be things like if you have reverse thrust on the outer engines and you get a failure on one side and not the other, you might get too much asymmetric thrust, or it's just a thing from the aircraft manufacturer that this aircraft, when you get forces from that direction forward instead of backward, which is built for, it's not great, so let's just use the inner pair. But this is just me speculating. Since I am not type rated on it, I don't know exactly why they do that, but that's some of the reasons that I can think of. So, Andres, hi Mentor. The other day I flew in a KLM 747-400. I later googled the plane and found out that it was 28 years old. Is it safe to fly planes that old? Yes, right, it is. There's no question about it, especially with a fantastic airline like KLM. I think there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to the age of aircraft. People look at that and they think, what if I had a car that was 28 years old, it would be falling apart right now. And that would be true, but not in the case of an aircraft. So an aircraft is manufactured, okay? And then if you look at the timeline, you would come to, the checks, the A checks, the B checks, the C checks, and the D checks eventually. And for each check, they check the components that they think might start to break, and they replace them. Okay, so they know the life of certain components, and when that life is out, which is called safe life, it's replaced, no matter if it's failed or not. Okay, so for each of these checks, there's a number of different parts of the aircraft that is being replaced. And then at the D check, if you've seen that, I actually have that inside of the app. If you go in and you see, you look down, you scroll down the videos there, you'll find a D check of a 747. You'll see what they do. And in a D check, they basically go through everything. They x-ray the entire aircraft and they look for micro cracks. They change things, like sometimes they change engines. Well, engines are being changed whenever they run out of life anyway. But they replace loads and loads of stuff. So basically, yeah, you're flying on a tail number that's 28 years old. But the components in that aircraft are not 28 years old. Some of them might be, but those are the ones who are non-load bearing and are non-safety related. There are things like, for example, the main wing spar. I think that's probably going to live the life of the aircraft, providing that it's, when they do the x-ray, that they don't find any micro cracks or anything like that. But mostly everything is replaced. The avionics is going to be replaced, the interior is going to be replaced, the landing gear struts, all of that is replaced. So you might be flying an aircraft that is almost new, but it's still 28 years old on paper. So if you would do the same, if you continue the analog with the With a car, it would be like you going to the shop and saying, right, okay, the car is now 3 years old. I'd like you to replace the engine. I'd like you to replace the chassis, okay, and then a new paint job. And you do that every 3 to 5 years. That car is not going to be falling apart after 20 years, 28 years. That's it. Right, cool. Jeremy Kana, hi Mentor, from New York City. Hey, you have an excellent channel. Keep it up. Thank you. What do you think about the Boeing 717? Do the existing 717s have long futures ahead? And have you ever been on one? I have not been on a Boeing 717. I've been on their sister ships, the MD-82, the MD-87, and the earlier versions of those DC-9, things like that. So I know the philosophy behind. Whether or not it has a long life ahead, probably not, to be perfectly honest. They're in a very competitive segment. They have been, I don't even know if they're being made new anymore. I haven't looked that up. They are fantastic aircraft. The technology is well ahead of its time. It's in many features, it's more modern than the 737. But whether or not it's, it's competing against aircraft that is much more efficient, like the 737 Max, the 320 Neo, all of those, and the airframe, the aerodynamics is not going to hold against them. So no, I think that they are there now. They're going to be continued to maintain, and as long as they make money, they will be there. But then they're going to be replaced, just like most of the older types, especially the ones that are not too successful, right? The 737 family is extremely successful, so they keep building on it. 717, not so much, unfortunately. So, Arabos, I guess it's law school for me then. Maybe. Now, like I said, it is a possibility. I mean, you might still be able to fly. You might still be able to get a PPL, for example, and do some real stuff flying. There's a possibility that the rules might change and things like that. So just keep your eyes open. But yeah, if it's a medical problem that's stopping you from becoming a pilot, and it's a constant one, something that cannot be changed, then I wouldn't get my hopes up too much. Probably look at an alternate career. That's the same as if I would lose my medical now. If I would lose my medical now, I would be very sad. But I will also just start refocusing. All right. So that was great. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be focusing on that to have a great life in my other occupation, whatever it might be. I will probably go towards business. I will probably do something entrepreneurial, like I'm already doing with the app and with the 360 stuff and the channel and everything like that. I love that. I find that it energizes me. That's why I'm sitting here on a Sunday night, even though I'm on early standby tomorrow, talking to all of you guys, because I love doing this. So there's always something. Even if you love one thing, it doesn't stop you from loving something else. Okay, so don't get too sad about when these kind of things happen. But I do understand that it's tough. So, Berglund Aviation, can you make a video about the control wires on the 737? Certainly. I'm thinking about doing some videos, more technical videos about the different systems, and the control system of the 737 versus, for example, fly-by-wire is definitely on my list. So, yes. Luis Angel Hernandez Bonilla. Hi, Mentor. I am 5 months away from high school graduation. Do you have any suggestion for me on how to pick up flight school and financial aid? Financial aid? No, not really, because it depends on where you are, where you live. There are different scholarships that you can look for. You can just Google them, basically. There might be. There are some aviation schools that are government funded in places like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, and France, I think. But if you're not in one of those, it's hard. So there are basically, you can find a way to finance your flight training, to do an integrated training. In that case, find a good school, do thorough research on it. The app will help you with that in the future, by the way. And then go for it when you have the money. Or you just do what most people do who doesn't have the financial means, which is you continue to get your education, you get a good job, you start saving money, you fly on your spare time, you build up. I mean, I have a friend, one of the mentor cadets, Dyfrig. which is a perfect example of how you do that, of being scrappy and achieving your goal even though you don't have the money. He was a lumberjack, basically working in the forest, cutting trees, doing stuff like that. You can follow him. I think he still has a homepage, Shimuda Pilot, I think it's called. I'm gonna link to that. He did that. You know, he started doing his flight training. He got a job in the aviation sector, making money, continuing training, and I think he's now doing his multi-engine training and starting his IFR tomorrow. And he's soon going to be done. So, and you know, so he's going to have built that for himself, and that's what I'm telling you guys. That even though it looks like a mountain, the amount of money that you need to get, it looks like a mountain that is impossible to surpass. You can do it. It's just about you being, you know, having a goal, making sure that you follow it, and taking the roads you need to take to get there, right? There's no way around it. You need to do that. Unless you can get a loan in your parents' house, or you're filthy rich and you can do it straight away, well, then you're going to have to be scrappy in one way or another. And it's going to take time. It doesn't matter. If it's your passion, your goal, you can do it, right? And you're going to be stronger after. You're going to be a better person. So, Haleo, hi Petter, thank you for the channel. Well, thank you for watching and supporting. How about go around after touchdown? For example, if something is blocking the runway, is there a rule or procedure? Yeah, basically the rule or procedure says that you can go around at any point until you have selected thrust reverses. That's what I mentioned in the video that I just released. Once you select the thrust reverses, then there is no go around anymore, because now the whole reverse mechanism is open. You can't add forward thrust until that has kind of folded in together and, you know, it's ready again. That's going to take too much time and you're going to run off the end of the runway. So once you've selected reverses, you are committed to the landing. But before then, if you just touch down and you see further down the runway that there's a car there and you haven't selected reverses, well, then you just press toga, go around, flap 15, set go around thrust. Nice slow rotation. Be very careful when you rotate, guys, because you're going to be at lower speed than you usually are, and people tend to want to get away, you know. And if you pull too hard, then you are going to hit the tail as you rotate. So nice slow 2 degrees per second rotation up, and then continue in a normal go around. Okay, that's all there is to it. You're not going to have the protections that you normally have, because you have gone around below your minima, but you're also having 2 engines, so you're going to have, you know, you're going to quickly climb up to an altitude where you're safe away from obstacles anyway. So yeah, we do practice this from time to time. So Alavos, it's not stopping me, it's non-existent with meds. Yeah, but like I said, just talk to them. I mean, it might be that you've gone past it, and that the medications, that you don't need them anymore, basically, that you can control it. And if you don't have the medications for, I think it is 6 months, then you can go for the certificate. So try it. Right, Abdul Malik, hi Mentor, following your channel from Glasgow, what do you make of the lack of 757 replacement for the thin transatlantic routes? I think that the aircraft manufacturers are well aware of that, and I think that the 737 MAX 200 and the Airbus 320neo, well, especially the 787 and the Airbus 350 is going to fill that kind of void very quickly. The Airbus 350 and the 787, they're fantastic aircraft that kind of takes as many passengers but uses way less fuel. So, you know, it's the 757 was a fantastic bird. It's one of the most beautiful aircraft that I know about, but it will definitely be replaced. There's no question about that. Great. So let's see. I'm going to go head into the Mentour Aviation app to see if there's anyone in there who wants to ask any questions. Get the app, guys. Links down here. Mentor, I'm currently doing this is from Black. I'm currently doing the PPL, and my parents would like me to do CPL right after the PPL, but I have the option to go straight to ATPL. Do you have any advice for me? Yeah, get the ATPL done. Right, that's my advice to you. The difference between CPL theory and ATPL theory is very little. It's just a little bit extra on each subject that you need to read. But once you have that, you are going to have ATPL frozen. an ATPL, the CPL, the flight training is exactly the same, because you can't get an ATPL straight out of flight school. You need 1,500 hours of that. The only thing that you can get is the ATPL frozen theory, and some airlines will actually require you to have that in order for you to apply, because they don't want you to, at 1,500 hours as a senior first officer, start to go into the book and have to do 14 different exams again. It's much better to have that all done in once when you're doing the CPL theoretical examinations. So always do the ATPL frozen if you have the option to do so, because you'll be crying of frustration if you don't, when it's time for you to upgrade to your ATPL and you can't do it because you all of a sudden have to take up the books again, the books that you might not have read for 5 years or something like that. So don't fall for that. Just do the frozen ATPL. That's my suggestion. And I think most flight schools will tell you to do exactly the same. Okay, what do you do if a plane gets hijacked? In the normal chat from Hamza. There are specific procedures for that. Okay, they're company specific, and I, under no circumstances can I sit and tell you what these procedures are, because it's safety related. So I don't know who's watching this. Certain things is just not suitable to transmit via YouTube. So there are procedures in force exactly what to do. I will not be able to get into that, unfortunately. Good. So more super chat questions here. Adabos again, thanks for your input. Have many safe trips. Well, thank you. Best of luck to you. I really wish that it works out for you. Best of luck. Keep me informed, Send me a message here in the app or something as you're progressing. Gene Tortosa on the super chat. What is the speed limit for taxi, and what happened if you pass that speed? Great question. I might actually do a special video on that, but I can tell you anyway. So slightly company specific. However, there are some things that the airlines will, the aircraft manufacturer will tell us as well. For example, on an apron, when we're taxiing on the apron close to other aircraft, the maximum speed is 15 knots, right? That's because you might have aircraft pushing back without clearance. There might be a baggage truck running across the apron. So we don't want you to taxi quick there. We want you to be able to stop quickly if needed. Then you have a straight line. When you're on a taxiway on a straight line, my company has a maximum speed of 30 knots. So we can taxi at 30 knots, providing it's just a straight line taxiway. If we have to enter a runway and backtrack the runway, let's say that there's just one intersection and then you have to backtrack for takeoff, then we can taxi as quick as 50 knots, which is almost the takeoff speed of a Cessna 152. And that's because there might be other traffic coming in, and we don't want to occupy the runway. And of course the runway is very wide and it's guaranteed that there's no other traffic there. So 50 knots is no problem at all. We just taxi down. The only thing to think about is not to maybe do it on really hot days where you might overheat the brakes before you take off. Then in corners, when you have to turn more than 45 degrees, we don't taxi quicker than 10 knots. And that's because 10 knots will not put so much strain on the nose wheel, which is the weakest component of the landing gear unit. So as we're turning, we want the speed to be down to not put too much stress on it, and then as we're through the turn, we can accelerate again. Or if you're on a slippery surface, so let's say you landed like I did the other day on Krakow. Those of you following my Instagram account would have seen some pictures from there. And we landed in Krakow. The air braking action was medium to poor. And when you have those kind of conditions, then the maximum taxi speed is 5 knots, because you have to be able to stop. And sometimes the only thing that will stop you is the reverses, like I mentioned on the video on Friday. So that's a great question. There's a lot of things to think about. And basically, if you guys have my Facebook account, I did a video about how to steer the aircraft on the ground. We just go in here on YouTube and look for how to steer an aircraft or how to control an aircraft on the ground, Mentour, and you'll find that I did a video showing you how I use the tiller, what to think about, how to overshoot the lines because the nose gear is behind you. It's quite fascinating, actually. So what happens if you pass that speed? Well, we have something called the AFDM, the the OFDM, I mean the Operational Flight Data Monitoring System, which is basically a little spy that sits behind us and monitors all of the parameters. The airline can go in and set these parameters, say at these maximum speeds, for example. And if it turns out that one pilot is always overshooting the turn speeds, for example, well, then the OFDM will have told the monitoring company, which is not the same as the airline. It's different. It's a monitoring company that is separate from the airline. And that monitoring company can then send out, listen, we have a problem. There's a trend of pilots, not one pilot, but pilots over speeding. And then the company can go in, send out a memo, for example, to all of its pilots saying, please reduce the speed during taxi. And then if there's someone who's doing consistently breaking rules and doing Cat 3 events, as we call them, those are events that are serious, well then that company that's once again separate from the airline can contact the certain people inside of the airline, like the chief pilot, for example, or some nominated people saying that, listen, we have a problem here, this particular person is doing these, we have this much. And then that person can be brought in for debrief, basically, to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But there are safeguards in place to make sure that there's not people who are doing unsafe practices out there. The OFDM system is the best system that has been installed during my time as a pilot. It has improved safely immensely, not only by stopping people who are doing unsafe practices, but also by showing trends to the airline. Listen, this is what's happening. You introduced this new SOP. This is how that's being implemented. This is what the fleet is now doing. So you can see by data what's happening and you can change it. It's a fantastic system. Great. Ada Boss, can you put on a uniform? No. I mean, there's just so much uniform I can sit on. I'm in uniform the entire day when I'm working, and I'm in uniform when I'm making videos. And no, at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night when I'm off, no. You're gonna have to listen to what I'm saying and not look at my stripes. There's enough of that. If you want to see that, just check out my videos. I'm in uniform as almost every one of them. Reese Chandler, why isn't the nose wheel angle limited by speed? Because you want to be able to control the aircraft and you want to be able to know how much you control the aircraft. So you don't want to suddenly notice that you can't turn as much because the speed is too high, for example. No. What's important is that the aircraft should be certified to be able to handle it, and it is. You could probably come at 50 knots and make a turn, and the nose wheel would handle that perfectly. But you can't do that consistently because it's going to wear too much on the nose wheel. So, there's always safety margins in here. The way we operate is A, safe, and B, in a way that keeps the aircraft going for as long as possible without encountering maintenance problems, because we want to do this as cheaply as possible. We want to burn as little fuel as possible. We want to put as little strain on engines and landing gear and stuff as possible in order for your tickets to be as cheap as possible. It's as easy as that. Kevin Wood, hi Petter, great channel. Are there differences in procedures between flying at night and during daytime, other than it's dark? No. The procedures, since we're flying IFR instrument, it doesn't matter if it's light or dark. The only difference is how we set up the panels, make sure it doesn't get too bright so that we can easily see the approach lights during landing at night. And also there's a slightly difference in how you perceive the landings at the daylight during night, because when you get in daylight, you will have the sense, you will easily see how you're closing in on the airport. You see the closure rate better. In nighttime, not so much, because you only have the lights and the approach light system. So people have a tendency to think that they're coming too quickly in night. So almost all of my cadets, when they do the first nighttime landings, they will go high, because it feels like they're coming too quick, and they inadvertently pitch back a little bit and they go high. So there's some differences in techniques, but that's just training. That's why we have line training, to make sure that we can overcome those things before they're released for line check. That's it. So, Reese Chandler again. How long until we have electric tugs to the holding point? I don't know, but I'm hoping that it comes soon. I think it would be a great thing if we can get electrical tugs that works properly, that could pull us up to like an engine starting point, where we start the engines and then it could disconnect and go. That would be great. It would save tons and tons and tons of fuel, millions of euros, and loads for the environment. So I would love to see that. I think there are some companies that are working on proper electric tugs, and this is something that probably comes as the battery technology increases. We get better and better batteries. It means that these tugs will become more and more usable for the airlines, and we'll probably see stuff like, British Airways tends to be, very, very quick to adapt these kind of technologies. I think they already have electric tugs used, even remote controlled electric tugs that doesn't even need any personnel. So we'll probably see those airlines adapt them at first, and then it will spread out to the rest. And now I'm starting to lose my voice. And also, guys, I'm gonna have to go very soon because, like I said, I'm on standby tomorrow. They could call me at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I want to get my beauty sleep before that. So, 2 more questions. To save fuel, why don't tugs tow to and from the runway? At the moment, it's too time consuming and it's too much personnel involved. So it's not doable right now. And every tug, you would need so many tugs on a big airport. That would be almost ridiculous. So not now, but like we said, if you start getting remote control tugs, maybe that the pilot can control from the cockpit, then it's another thing completely. Someone needs to get Elon Musk on those electrical tugs from Nitrax. Yeah, exactly. You need someone like that to, shoot a couple of 100 millions into it. I'm flying from Ian Agar. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'm flying a Piper PA-28 next Sunday. Any advice? Yeah, enjoy it. I've flown the PA-28 a lot. That was actually the second aircraft that I flew. Yeah, no, there's no specific advice. The PA-28 is a very easy aircraft to fly. It's low winged. It has a very simple flap system, the one that you pull in between you like a handbrake. It's a great little aircraft. Just enjoy it with your flight instructor. Have them show you. Do a little bit of, ask them to do some chandelles and some late 8s. You'll like that. Aura Prods, all your flights are from and to Girona. Yeah, Girona is my home base, so this is where I fly to and end up. Sometimes I go from Girona to a different place, and then like to Paris, and then I fly from Paris to a third place, and then back to Paris, and then back. But I always end up in Girona. At least I always hope that I will end up in Girona. Dindog22, good night, mentor. Pet the dogs for me. I can't avoid it because they're all over me. Patchy has a tendency to jump up into the bed and stuff as well, so you can't avoid petting him. He's like a little bulldog when it comes to that. And guys, that is it. Malta McMurthy, I love your doggos. Yeah, me too. Except when they pee on my floor. I don't like that. You just did that, Patchy. He's still a puppy. He's much bigger than Molly, but he's still a puppy. Sometimes, especially when we've left him alone for a while, he's giving back at us by peeing on the floor, I think by spite, because we've been gone. So, I have to get that sorted. Cool, guys. So, once again, I want to finish this up by telling you, I still have a sale going on the complete collection inside of the Mentour Aviation app. So, if you want to go in and you want to see how I do rejected takeoff and emergency evacuation, how to fly an engine failure, how to deal with checklists, how to deal with TCAS maneuver, Cat 3 landings in full fog when we let the aircraft land itself, go-arounds, things like that. If you want that, it is right now until tomorrow, at least until tomorrow, $5 or €5 for 2 hours of quality 360. And like I said before, if you do it, you can watch around, you can look everything, what we do, pilot flying, pilot monitoring. You can move the phone around, and you can also get a Google Cardboard headset, and that will definitely feel like you're sitting together with me inside of the flight deck on the jump seat. That's why I made it, all right? So that's the paid stuff, right? It's completely free to download. The chat is free. All of that is free. So if you want to support my upcoming update, which I really hope that you will do, then get the collection, because it really does help. And if not, I just want you in there. If you're a flight student, I want you in there. If you're a commercial pilot right now, I want you in there to answer questions, okay? If you're just a an enthusiast that love talking about aviation, these kind of things, well, then you should be in there asking questions. And like I said, even though the chat might be a bit frustratingly easy and simple right now, it's going to be much better within a few months. All right, so I want as many people as in there as possible to when those changes happen. And I want you, if you have the app right now, to go into App Store and give it a review, please, and a nice one, please, because that also helps me to reach more and more people, so we get more aviation people in there, so we can create this fantastic, positive and constructive forum that we all love. Okay, so that's it, guys. I want to sign out with that. If you know, I hope that you've checked out, by the way, my little, I've created some t-shirts and some mugs and stuff like that. So if you're interested in getting some Mentor merch, then go and check that out. Have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, sorry, SB, I missed your question. All right. Have you ever flown to Istanbul, Turkey? No. I haven't flown into Turkey yet. That might come, but right now I haven't flown to Turkey. I would love to. But that's it. Now I'm finally done. Bye-bye.